From the religious point of view, the prohibition mentioned in the Quran as far as sexuality is concerned, during the time of menstruation, during the period time, apart from that, everything actually is allowed. Although culturally speaking, anal sex, for instance, is not, even if it's practiced, is not acknowledged in most, in the Muslim culture and Muslim heritage and so on. But actually there is, although there are hadiths to say, if the man insists on anal sex with his wife, that is not really acceptable and so on. But the authenticity of such a hadith is, or the implication of such a hadith is discussed on two grounds. First is the authenticity. Second, shall I say, the expectation or the expected result of such a hadith. Is it forbidding, or it is, reproaching? Is it, mentioned as it is haram, for instance, or it is discouraging? You understand me? And I think even from the health point of view, anal sex, I think, is not really, appreciated or not really enjoyable as the natural form or the, traditional norm of sexuality. But if we move, say, for instance, to oral sex, I don't see any problem with that. Although in, say, some culture, this maybe is not appreciated. But from the religious point of view, I don't see any problem if there is no health risk, if there is no, detestableness. What I'm trying to say, there is no religious ground, to reject any form of sexuality when it comes to oral sex or, other type of sexual activity and so on.
You have to be very cautious, and we have to be very cautious not to take these ahadith literally, because they have to be put in the context, the way, and once again, the best model is the Prophet of Islam, who was very polite, very respectful towards the woman, and never act like this. So, yes, of course, a woman, it's a question of dialogue, it's a question of mutual respect. It's not, sexual life and love, it's not a question of right and wrong, my rights and your duties. It's not this. You're not going to build a relationship understanding the last verse, which was revealed, saying that among his signs there is love and tenderness between you. You're not going to get that level if it's just my rights and your duties. And it's not like that. So a woman should be able to say to a man that she doesn't want, she doesn't feel it, and she needs something else, and he has to listen. It's a question of his first right is to show his love, not to ask for his rights. And sometimes the Muslim men are forgetting this and just dealing with their rights.
I think it's a misunderstanding of the hadith. I think there is suggestion or indication that man longing for sexual satisfaction is more frequent than the lady is. We are speaking about the normal circumstances. Although sex is gratifying for both, but it seems that the makeup of the man is a little bit different from the makeup of the women. Maybe sexuality is much deeper in the psycho of the women. But on the upper level, the frequency is more happening from the man's side. So we have to, appreciate that psycho differences between both. That is one point. The second, the Prophet, perhaps the Hadith is saying to us, or saying to the women in particular, if you have no reason to say no to your husband's demand, if you are not tired, if he is not vulgar with you, if you are not out of mood for it, you should be positive about it. And it will be generous on your side, it will be consideration on your side, to be positive in response to your husband. But if you have reason, if you are exhausted, if you have problem, say for instance, he is insisting on you, for instance, while he needs to brush his teeth or rinse his mouth for a sweeter breath or something like this. So if there is a reason to make you less responsive to him, I don't think the blame will be on your side.
A marriage contract, and I specify marriage contract because technically speaking it's still within the parameters of a marital contract, where Muslim societies by and large recognize legitimate sexual activity, has as its very basis sexual intercourse, the permissibility, the access for both partners to not just have the right to have sex, but to enjoy sex. And there is a lot of confusion as to the almost a taint of shame around a woman enjoying sex or saying that she wants sex or that it's her right to have sex, whereas actually all Muslim law manuals talk about the absolute obligation in both partners to provide not only sex, access to sex for each other, but also sex in a loving and compassionate and in an honest and open way. So if a woman feels that she is being denied sex within her marriage, she has the right and she also has the means to not only just raise this with her husband, but also to, if this continues and there is no solution to it, to actually ask for divorce on that basis. All marital contracts have an element of exchange and gift in them, and Islamic marital contracts are no exception. But I would argue that the selection of hadith, on a separate note, is a very dangerous way to promote different visions of Islam. Because for every hadith that somebody can select, I can come up with another hadith that might say the complete opposite. And I think it's become a very commonplace for people to just select hadith according to what they want Islam to be. And when it comes to women's issues or marital issues or sexual issues, I think people are abundant with hadith because they want Islam construed in a certain way. But I think that to see women only as sexual objects, to enter into a marital contract with a woman only because of sexual favors, and that's how you see her, that is not marriage. So if that's why you're entering a marriage, then you might as well go and buy your favors outside. And I think that as long as men continue to see women as just sexual objects in or outside a marriage contract, and as long as women think of themselves as just sexual objects, and that the higher the sexuality that they can offer, or the way they're seen in society, the higher their price, then I think we will continue to have these rather ridiculous conversations about women being there at a man's beck and call for sexual favors.